You've just joined the Prepper Broadcasting Network, where we promote self-reliance and independence. The views and opinions expressed are strictly those of the host or their guests. Visit us in the interactive chat room at PrepperBroadcasting.com.
This broadcast is brought to you in part by Ozark Mountain Preparedness, providing top-quality instructional courses for people who desire to pursue a self-reliant lifestyle, whether in the wilds or right at home. Course topics include wilderness and urban survival, fur trapping, bushcraft, primitive skills, long-term wilderness living, land navigation, GPS, home disaster preparation, outdoor cooking, food procurement and storage, foraging wild edibles, and many others. Visit Ozark Mountain Preparedness at www.ozarkmountainpreparedness.com. Are you storing food? Prepared families are storing food for months and years, but only have enough fuel stored for days or weeks. Stretch your fuel storage by harnessing the power of the sun with the Sun Oven. Foods can be baked, boiled, or steamed at temperatures of 360 to 400 degrees with the power of the sun. You can use the sun for 50 to 80% of your cooking, allowing you to preserve your fuel storage for rainy days. Sun-baked foods stay moister and have less shrinkage and do not burn. Sun-baked roasts are tastier and more succulent, and sun-baked bread has unparalleled taste and texture. Water can be heated in the Sun Oven for purification or personal hygiene. For the past 26 years, Sun Ovens have been proudly made in the USA. They are durable, have a long life, and come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. For a discount coupon, visit sunoven.com/PreppersRadio. That's www.sunoven.com/PreppersRadio.
Good evening and welcome to Preparing for Life Storms with BexarPrepper. Today is September 4th, 2012, and I hope you all had a wonderful Labor Day. It's my pleasure to welcome you in tonight. We are on air from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time on the first and third Tuesdays of the month on American Preppers Radio, powered by PrepperBroadcasting.com. We broadcast 12 different hosts 7 days a week. Don't forget, over on the right of the chat room, you can subscribe and become a member for updates on special shows or events. Tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central, The Lost Art of Prepping with Michael Bostic, bartering and what you should have in your preps that will help you and your family live a little better during the rough times. Also, they will be discussing how to set up a pre-event bartering system for all preppers to trade their homemade goods for other items they don't have or have money for. Then at 8 p.m. Central Time, it's Prepping with Goat Hollow. For prepping ideas, guests, and conversation, come share and learn. So as most of you know, September is National Preparedness Month. So tonight, in honor of that, we are going to be talking about the impending cascade in human life in an SHTF situation. So I did have a guest scheduled for tonight, and it looks like she had a little conflicting schedule, and if she was able to make it in, G-Man will bring her right in. But otherwise, you have just me tonight. So what we're going to talk about is, I don't want to focus on all the negative. I want to try to just touch on the negative, and then let's talk about solutions, because, you know, I'm a positive kind of girl, and we got to talk about the negatives so we know where we stand, but I want to give us ideas and solutions and have you share your ideas and solutions with me. So I've done a lot of reading over the last month and a lot of watching of YouTube videos. And, you know, this is a really heavy topic, and most people just don't want to think about it, let alone talk about it. But here we go. I was watching The Patriot Nurse, and most of you probably know her. She's got a great YouTube channel, and she was talking about this subject, and she really said it well, so I'm going to kind of reiterate what she brought up about 3 groups that will be most affected in an SHTF situation. Now, we're talking a full SHTF situation. So Group 1, and the people that would be in Group 1 would be your physically disabled, your brittle diabetics, nursing home patients, amputees, respiratory issues, and extreme weight. And the reason these are in Group 1 is because there are things that can't necessarily be controlled or that anyone has control over. You know, people in a nursing home, a lot of them are bedridden, so they're going to be relying on others to take care of them. I know people that, you know, her category of amputees, I think what she meant in that category were those that had the physical limitations because, you know, you need a wheelchair, and if you're on the 5th floor and there's no elevator, you got to find a way to get down and still have your wheelchair at the bottom. So we're going to talk about ways that they can kind of help themselves, people in Group 1. Group 2 would be what she classifies as your welfare recipient. I think this is an attitude, not a current status. A lot of people are, you know, on government assistance at this moment because of our economy and what has been done to this country. And so, you know, we've got, 47 million people on food assistance. So that's that category. It's not just those on food assistance. It's not those that aren't willing to help themselves per se, but they tend to have this mentality at the group I'm talking about of cradle-to-grave mentality where they really won't help themselves. They're going to sit back and wait to be rescued, and, you know, that rescue may never come. Katrina was a great example of that. Sure, they were rescued off roofs, and then they were put into a dome, and then even more horrible things happened to them there. So, you know, that's that good old government mentality. We're going to grab you, and we're going to take care of you. Unfortunately, they're not capable of it. So, you know, you expect that the American way of life will never change. And so that's what I would classify as part of Group 2. And the second part of Group 2, I think she nailed this on the head, aggressors and looters. You know, these will include your drug addicts, your pill seekers, and they will take advantage of those in Group 1. That's their main target to start. And they are the most dangerous, absolutely. Those are the ones we all have to watch out for. And then she mentioned Group 3. This is the fun group. They're the yuppies, the high debt, no preparations. They'll be in denial to the bitter end. And they don't prep. They just live each moment the way it is. They don't even think about tomorrow because tomorrow will never end. Today is all that matters. And this can include your neo-hippies, I love my chacos, barefooted, urban, and they don't like weapons. This does not include Cody London because he actually has some skills, even though he is barefoot. So what can we do if we fall into one of those groups? If you would like to call in and offer your ideas, the phone number is 347-202-0228, and remember to press 1 to speak to me. So what can we do? You know, if we're in Group 1, how can we get ourselves out of that group? Well, you really can't get yourself out of that group, but you can set yourself up. You can set up, you know, an extra wheelchair somewhere. You can put your food storage on a low shelf so if you know, your wheelchair is taken from you, you can get to it. You can set up security measures and a safe room or a safe place that you can go to. If you're a brittle diabetic, you've got to find alternatives. You know, you've got to find ways that medicinally that you can try to counteract some of that and figure out what the perfect diet is for you to keep you as safe and as healthy as possible, because you can store up all the medications to your heart's content. If it is a long, drawn-out section, then you're going to be stuck. You're eventually going to run out, you know? So you've got to keep that in mind. Nursing home, heat strokes. You've got to make sure you've got someone set that can come and get you, if at all possible. So that's really important to try to think of that. If you're in group 2, well, most of you that are in that group are trying to find, at least those here tonight, are trying to find a way out of that. You know, if it means that you've got to go and mow yards, I myself have 3 jobs, and I've had 3 jobs for 15 years. I have extra medical expenses for someone close to me, and those medical expenses run extremely high. And so I have no choice. I work 3 jobs. I do what I need to do to pay the bills. And more people need to come up with that attitude. If you want to start your food storage and you don't have any money, go mow yards, deliver pizzas, you know, start selling stuff on eBay, start a YouTube channel. I mean, seriously, do what you can. Just as long as you're making those steps forward, get out of debt. That's a huge thing. If you've got credit card bills and you're paying $500 a month on those credit card bills, imagine what kind of stock you could buy with that $500. So you really need to think about these things in order to get yourself out of those groups as much as possible now before it's too late. And the aggressor looters, I don't know. All I can do is pray for them. So the yuppies, it's the same thing. Get out of debt, you know, wake up, get some gun training and realize guns aren't the problem, people are the problem, and do what you can there. So, you know, if you're working to get out of those groups, then you're actually going to be better off than if you don't. And so I just lost my train of thought. Isn't that sad? Okay, so when you get out of those groups, now you have to look at what do we have to look forward to. We've worked on that section, so now we need to look at the waves of death. And yes, if there is a long-term situation, there will be waves of death. Okay, WeTree wants me to repeat the 3 groups. We can do that. Group 1 is physically disabled, brittle diabetics, nursing home patients, strokes, amputees, respiratory patients, extreme weight. Group 2, welfare recipients. This is an attitude, not a status. Aggressors, looters. Group 3 are yuppies and neo-hippies, you know, I want it now type people. So you're working to get yourself out of that. So the impending cascade, here it comes, okay? The situation has just happened. The electricity is stopped. The water is right around the corner to stop because it's not going to be maintained. Everybody's going to rush off, and they're going to go their own ways. The trash is not going to get picked up. And so all of these things are going to cause the cascade, moment by moment. So what do we need to prepare for? 1, we need to prepare in the first month for the things that cause the SHTF. If it's an EMP, well then all the electricity's gone. Planes are going to come down. There's going to be fires everywhere. Excuse me. And the inability to put those out because there's not going to be any water pressure without electricity. And so you can expect that we'll be looking at the chronically diseased passing on. Those in group 1, a lot of them will be passing on. Patients in nursing homes, they're going to have heat stroke. Buildings are not designed to house people nowadays. You know, in the olden days, the windows were 10, 12 feet up. They opened from the top down. And you'd be able to open them up and get a cross flow through your home. But that's not something you'll be able to do. your house is going to become my shed. That's one of the reasons why I show you what I show you on my YouTube channel. I show you how to store in a shed. Because at some point, if it were to happen, we're all going to have sheds. And you're going to need to know, how long is that food going to last in my shed? What do I need to do to protect that? And your house is a shed, so what are you going to do? Think about those things now. Don't wait. If you'd like to call in, the phone number is 347-202-0228. You know, after that, you're going to start to see the contagious disease showing up. You know, it's poor sanitation, infections. It's, you know, you can go get a cut right now, and we wash our hands, and we take baths, and those cuts heal. But you try not having water, not having electricity, not having the ability to keep things sanitized, and that little tiny cut can kill you. You can get blood poisoning, and that's it. You're gone. Unless you have antibiotics, and how long are those antibiotics going to last? You need to learn what other things you can do for antibiotics. Are there a medicinal way to create some sort of antibiotic that you can take care of this kind of stuff? You know, these are things that we need to be looking at now, not later. We're going to have Genius in Exile in January on the 1st, folks. I know it's a bad day, but she's going to come in and talk to us about herbal remedies in the kitchen. And so that's going to give us a start there of maybe what can we stock up on or what can we make from what we have. But that's going to be really important for us. So, and then the trash, you know, you've got to learn how to manage your trash. If you've never burned trash, talk to somebody who has. Learn how to burn your trash. Learn what won't burn and what will and what you need to be careful of, because you're going to have to get rid of it. What about your toilets? If the sewer system's not working, don't you think those toilets in that 5-story apartment building may back up, especially up here on the 1st floor? So how are you going to deal with that contamination? You know, I'll be honest with you, if I was in a 5-story apartment building and on the 1st floor, I would definitely make plans to bug out, because it is not going to be a pretty place to be. And that is going to make people sick. I know all this downer stuff, just really bad. But it is a bad situation. You know, if we get to that point, it is a horrible situation. And we are more prepared than most. And yet most of us are not prepared. It is so hard. You have to pick your priorities. You have to say, okay, I've got to do this first, because if I don't have food and water, then it doesn't matter if I get an infection. I'm gone anyways. You know, if I'm a brittle diabetic, it's food, water, and any medicine I can get, or alternatives to the medicine, because without those 3 things, you're not going to be here. So you really need to think about which of those groups you fall into, if any, and we all fall into one of them just a little bit. Every single one of us. None of us is perfect. We're all flawed human beings. And if you take an honest assessment of yourself, you will find that you are in one of those groups at least a tiny bit. And that's something you can control. So then in the next 3 months, you can expect for everybody that gets the infections and is exposed to the contamination and to go. And then over the next 1 to 6 months, and this is going to be happening the entire time, you're going to have people dying from malnutrition, dehydration, and suicide. Dehydration can kill you in 48 hours. 3 days without water, well, you get around some contamination or eat some bad food or drink some contaminated water, and you're going to be gone in 24 hours. First, you're going to go psychotic, and then you're going to be gone. And so you've got to get those priorities right. And we're going to be losing people for 6 months to these things. Malnutrition. This is the one that's really hard for me. As those shelves stay bare, those with children will be affected. Can you imagine the pain and suffering as a parent you would feel when you're unable to provide even a scrap of bread for your kids? For those of us that do prep, this is going to be the hardest time for us because we have food. We have to be not tempted to give it all away because of the children. You have to remember at all times, every day of food you give away is one less day that you're going to survive. And that is a really hard thing to think about. But these are things we need to think about now, not after the fact, because we're not going to be thinking with the minds that we have now. I don't care how strong a person you are, your mind is going to be affected. You're going to make rash decisions. And so you need to set those priorities now and decide what you will do in case it happens. Do I think December 21st is going to happen? No, I don't. Do I think we're going to go through an economic collapse? Yeah, probably. Do I think we're going to lose our freedoms? Yeah, and if any of you have seen the document that was put out in 2010 to the military, you would probably think that they had something up their sleeves too. But we'll save that for another night. So I know Wheatree says quit taking it to your heart. And, you're right. You have to find a way not to do that. But that's going to be really tough when it comes to kids. Really tough. I guess nobody has anything to add, but in case you do, the phone number is 347-202-0228. And don't forget, press 1 or you'll be waiting on hold for a while. I'm really sorry. My throat is a little under the weather tonight. So it's not going to be fun. So let me take care of some business here. Don't forget, next Tuesday at 8 p.m. will be the Crooked Path to Preparedness. As a like-minded individual, you can always find some great information with just a tad bit of levity mixed right in. So join Sissy Bob at the Crooked Path to Practical Preparedness, unless you got rid of the practical there. Okay, so let's get back to our discussion. I don't want to spend the whole hour talking about the negatives, as I said before, so let's talk a little more about the positives and what we can do. Let's take an example of my group. My group has decided that our number one priority at this time is to find ways to eliminate our need for prescription medications. Just storing up some medications is not enough, since at some point, if the situation continues, eventually you will run out. And you will have to deal with those issues. And if everybody's stored up 3 months, you're going to have to deal with every single one of them at the exact same time. And that's not a situation I want to be involved in. In some instances, you're going to find that you really can do without some things, say like anxiety medications. If you deal with that now and deal with what's causing your anxiety, then, you can find ways to help alleviate it. You can find homeopathic or medicinal alternatives which can reduce or eliminate our prescription reliance. You can reduce your dosage needs for a lot of medications by reducing, your weight and increasing your activity. The whole point is to start now. And it looks like we have Genius in Exile in the queue. Hey, G.
Hi there. How are you tonight?
Good, and you?
Oh, pretty good, and I'm so excited because you are touching on a subject that has been rolling around in my little thick skull for a long time, and I'm so glad that we have a forum where we can talk about it and talk about the declination of society, how we're going to cope with it, and what things, that we'll have to prepare for that maybe we hadn't originally thought of.
You know, it is a scary proposition, and I think most people like to avoid this at all costs because this is so hard to talk about.
Well, it is. It's hard to talk about because we know it could possibly be the inevitable. It will be our reality. You know, you've got these people out here with the fantasy warrior syndrome who say, you know, I'm going to get a gun in the morning. You know, I'm just going to kill anybody, you know, that gets in my way and I'll steal their food. So you've got these people who are going to be, you know, a group of aggressors who are going to take. You know, they could possibly be the ones hunting for people on the road and doing whatever with them, and they may end up being your meal. Then you've got, you know, the preppers, and we do our best. We stay awake at night thinking about all these different scenarios, flood, hurricane, famine, drought, and we just wrap our minds around all these different scenarios. What can I do for this? How can I get a rowboat? You know, and there's so many things you have to prepare for, and then you have to look at, you know, the group three, the ones who are in denial, the ones who've laughed at us and said, what are you doing? That's so weird. Why do you have a bunker? And then you're going to see them on the road.
Right, but if you do this, if you do this way, then all you do is you when you throw everything at somebody, it freezes you. It sets you up for indecision, and you're like, it's just too much to think about, so I don't do anything. So how in your life do you decide what is your priority at this moment? How do you make that decision for yourself?
I have to look at A, my children, B, my environment, and C, where I need to go, my final destination, my place of safety, where I'm going to be. How do I get there? How do I protect it? How do I protect the place where I am now until I can get there? You know, you have to look at your immediate environment, your immediate threat. You know, be it whatever it is that hits the fan. You have to cope through that. And for how long? And then you also have to worry about those who would stand in your way, be it, you know, the government, be it, you know, people on the road, anything at all. You have to worry about that. You know, so you kind of go through your plan, your, you know, plan A to Z, and think about the different scenarios that could go along with it. And the best thing you can do is focus on what you have to do until you can, you know, go to the next step. That's the easiest way to do it, I think, and that's still hard because you could really just lose your mind thinking about the 1,000,001 ways. You know, you could die or your people could die, and how you'll never get where you need to be, and how things will run out on you before you get there.
Yeah, see, and that's my big worry. You know, we've got so many new preppers out there that are just overwhelmed with not information being presented to them, and they're like, I don't know where to start. But I think you made a good point. You've got to look at your immediate family. You've got to say, okay, like you said, the children are the number one priority. Then are we safe where we're at? If we're not safe, then that needs to be your number one priority, because if you're not safe, then your children aren't safe. And you've got to teach people, I guess we've got to teach the new preppers to take bite sizes.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, as somebody who's been prepping for a very long time, this is something I want to say to the new preppers. I'm overwhelmed, too.
Exactly. I think it's because we know more of what's going on because we've been following it a lot longer. And so we see all the decisions that have been made in the government over the last 4 to 6 years, 8 years, 12 years. I mean, it started a long time ago. And we see how they're creeping, you know. And I'm curious, if we have an active duty military member, you don't even have to say what military you are. If you're in there, I would love to have you call in and see what your opinion is on this document that was released in the last 48 hours. But back to you, G. Sorry.
Oh, no. I want to hear about that, too. I actually read a really interesting article put out by Texas Department of Transportation. It's called What If the Truck Stop? What that is, it's basically a dissertation on how the declination of society could come very quickly if not constantly supplied with the things that we cannot do for ourselves. A lot of people have forgotten how to do for themselves, and there's no wonder. Everything is so easy. Fast food, you can't swing a stick without running to a McDonald's or, any kind of fast food place. So that's easy. People don't know how to cook for themselves. They don't even know they can go out to the backyard and make a salad. So, people just don't know how to do these things for themselves. And if the trucks stop running, the stores will run out of food in 3 days. If the garbage trucks stop running, your waste will not be taken away. There will be no maintenance on our sewage. Pretty soon our streets will flood with sewage. And it goes on and on from there. The filth, like you were touching on before, the disease, people dying. Waste management will become our job. We will have to dispose of whatever is out there because it will poison our environment, and we're basically the ones that are going on.
Right. And, I just recently had a taste of what our society is like. I have my unattended garden. I only visit every 2 weeks. I have neighbors, far-off neighbors, and it's hidden quite well in my property. And I had all my tomatoes taken. They were very nice. They opened the gate, closed the gate, turned on the electric fence, turned off the electric fence, and didn't step on any plants, didn't rip anything up, plucked the tomatoes off, which I don't do. I cut them, took my biggest green peppers and left me some green peppers. And I'm thinking, okay, if they're doing that now, what is that person going to do when there's no food?
They will harvest from you, and they will harvest from your hard work. They have found their place.
They will kill me to get what I have. And that's the part we need to remember.
Or
they will kill us to get what we have.
You to grow it. You will become a slave at their gunpoint to continue to grow it. That's another thing you have to worry about. What if you don't get killed?
Good point. Good point. Well, we don't have anybody in the queue, so I guess we're going to keep talking to G here for a minute. Okay.
I don't mind for me jabber.
Is it okay with you to keep talking to you for a minute?
Sure.
Okay, so, my point is that we need to change what we can now and find a positive way to get to it and not see all the negatives in SHTF situation. So positive. One of the things that I'm focusing on myself is the medications and the alternatives, and finding ways to do that. And I know that you're going to be on my show in January, but can you give us just a slight taste of maybe if I can put you on the spot of maybe 2 things that we can do medicinally that might help us with our medications?
Absolutely. First thing is I've actually heard that for the diabetics, you can actually make your own, I suddenly forgot the insulin. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name of it, by boiling down your own urine. Yes, yuck, but a dying person is worse. You can actually make...
That's really true.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it was a hoax.
No, I'll probably need to do some more research. God has blessed me with no diabetics in my immediate family, but I would at least like to know in case I do need to save somebody. Let's see. Another thing is coffee. If someone is having an asthma attack, boil up some coffee, have them breathe the steam. That will actually make the capillaries in their lungs expand, and they will be able to breathe easier. It's little things like that. It doesn't even have to be great coffee, fresh coffee. You can save the grounds, dry them up, and use them for a medical purpose again later. That's something you can do to save somebody.
Wow.
If someone's high blood pressure, personally, it goes on and on. Look what's around you.
Right. Well, gee, thank you so much for calling in and offering all that great information.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to be on your show in January.
Okay, we will see you then. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, so what G had said that's something to do with diabetics is you can do something with your own urine. I kind of tuned out a little bit on that because I just went, ugh. But she'll cover more of that in January when we get into that subject. But she offered, a lot of good insight, and I know there are a lot of you that have some great insight in this area, and I guess you're all just afraid that you might look stupid, and you won't, because you got to remember, I can't people that listen to this show later can't see your questions and can't see your information in the chat room. They can only go by what they hear on the radio. So let's share this information and try to get them. And honest, I won't hurt you on the phone. The phone number is 347-202-0228. And don't forget to press 1 to get into the queue. All right, so, we have to sit back and we have to take that moment. We need to make those lists. And you need to do it now. I don't know if the economy is going to crash in the next 6 months. I'll be honest with you, I think there may be something coming in the next 6 months just because things are just getting really, really strange lately. Inflation is going really fast, and they can't hold down this artificial interest rates for a whole lot longer, and it's eventually going to catch up to them. And, a lot of it's going to be delayed because it all depends on who gets elected and how quick it crashes. So I know that's going to give people hope and non-hope, and, no matter who you're voting for, you're going to have hope that your person gets in, and so that's going to hold things stable for a little while. But we need to, find the positive ways that we can affect our lives, and we can make it better for us. And one of the things that I'm hoping to do, and maybe this is something you all would consider, is do a weekend of SHTF. Turn off your electricity. Turn off your water. I'll be honest with you, I'm not doing it till the temperature cools down. It is just too hot here in Texas. I'm just not going to do it. That's one area that I think there'll be enough challenge in any other way than to do that. So I'm going to wait till it cools down. And I would like some of you to do it with me, and we can check it out and see what we thought. We can have a show on that and see how it affected us and lessons learned. So email me at bearprepper@att.net if you'd like to join me. Probably, I don't know, maybe October, November, depending on the seasons and when everything gets cooler for everybody. But October might be a great time to do it. All right, looks like we got Bobby in queue. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bear, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. How are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. I was listening to what you were saying about the people that went out to the retreat garden and, started taking the tomatoes, and I guess they got the peppers too and things like that. And first off, that's not a problem. Whatever they took, I can send it down there to you and fix it right up.
Well, thank you, Bobby.
We can take care of that part. But I got a question for you. If they were willing to do this to the garden, isn't the other shed structure right adjacent to the garden or pretty close by where all of the food supplies are? Is that a concern?
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you, it's not a concern, and I can't go any further than that. But put it this way, if they try to get into it, they will have a surprise. So, what can I say? They won't try again.
Yeah, as soon as you said you had visitors out there and they just help themselves, that's a concern I think anybody would have, especially a lot of people have what they call a bug-out location where they can go and they have stuff stashed. If somebody has been watching you or if you have made a video about this, the average person may not recognize it, but if your neighbor is watching your videos, like actually a lot of mine do now, that I'm finding out, they're telling me, hey, I liked your last video. I'm like, I didn't know you were watching. So now a lot more people know exactly what I'm doing. And whatever I put on video, they can see exactly what I have. And so it'd be the same thing for anybody else.
Right, and that is a huge concern. And one of the good things is I only have 3 neighbors, and I know which one it was pretty much. So, it won't continue. So I'm not really, really worried about that. It's one of those things that once they realized it was noticed, I don't think I'll have to worry about it anymore. But I still have my preparations and trying to prepare for it. But see, that's something we all need to think about. We all need to think about what happens. Our neighbors, we think they don't watch us, and they're watching us. They may think we're crazy, but they're watching us.
Well, that
right?
was one of the biggest concerns I have or had in December 2010 when I posted my very first video. I had to think about it quite a bit before I decided I will actually go ahead and do this, because I knew either I was going to stay hidden out of sight, or I was going to hide in plain sight, one or the other. I couldn't do it in the middle, so I made the decision where I'll go ahead, I'll put it out there, everybody will see it, they will know exactly what I have, and I felt like it would be better if people around knew what I had, and when the time came, they would know where to go, and maybe there would be strength or safety in numbers, as opposed to trying to hide everything away from everybody else, and then having some people on the side who knew what I had, and then when the crap fell apart, they sneak out of the bushes and I'm a sitting duck. So right now I feel like enough people know where to come, where it might kind of like it be a more of a little community kind of thing. Hopefully, anyway.
Well, yeah. They're going to want somebody to take care of them. So, yeah, that is a great point, Bobby. Thank you so much for calling in. You have a great evening. And Rich, we've got Rich in the queue. Hi, Rich.
Hi.
How are you this evening?
Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Oh, okay. I agree with Bobby somewhat there on that, but when I started putting my stuff up a couple years ago and doing my things, we decided that we would never show. I mean, I do videos at the house and I do videos at the apartment, but I won't do videos at the farm, which is our fallback location, our quote bug out location. And I don't do things like I don't show all of my preps. I'll show some, and I don't show my guns and things like that. There are certain things that we decided as a family that would be more beneficial if other people didn't know about it. Now, my neighbors know me and know who I am and whatnot, but they don't know everything. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They have an idea.
Rich, I think most of us are the same way. I don't show everything either. I may show a lot, but they have no clue. So, and, for all anyone knows, I have multiple retreats. So, good luck,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, to the new preppers, they need to understand that. And, we always say, well, we want to go out and we want to find new preppers, like-minded people and things like that. But you have to talk to a person and get to understand them. You just can't walk up and say, hey, I'm a prepper. How about you? How are you doing? You just can't do that. You have to go up and kind of feel people out before you get going on that. And I want to let new preppers know that, too. They just can't throw it out in the open because, one, they'll scare people. Because a lot of people think survivalists and preppers and things like that, and the first thing they think of is, oh, you run around with a machine gun and camouflage all day long.
Right.
And the other thing they think of is you're some kind of nut living in a bunker in the basement. So,
right.
we have a you have a bunker in a basement, that's fine, but
Right, and you've got to give it time. I mean, if you're looking to add someone to your group, I don't care if you think vibes are great and, for 4 months you think vibes are great. You need to give it time, lots of time, because people can be deceiving, and you really don't know what you're in for. I mean, with family, you don't have a choice. You're stuck with family. Sometimes being stuck with family is a great thing, but a lot of times it's not. But when you're choosing someone to come into your group, you got to be very careful, and you got to make some demands of them. You can't just say, okay, you can come in. There have to be demands.
They have to be able to carry their own weight. They have to be able to significantly make an addition to your group. You can't pick your friends because you go to Bridge or you're members of the Red Hat community or whatever else together you have. They have to be able to pull their own weight and make a contribution to your group and to your people that you're together with.
Right. And, these are all these things that we need to start thinking about because things are getting worse. They are not getting better. And, you know, none of us know when it's going to get really bad, but we can see the signs that things are not the way they should be, and they're getting harder and harder for a lot of people.
Absolutely, absolutely. One other thing I want to touch on before I get out of your ear is we'd mentioned turning over to medicinal kind of plants and whatnot. Remember that there's the books there from Peterson's Field Guide. Now, they don't have just wild edibles. Peterson's Field Guides also have animals, plants, and vertebrates, all kinds of different books out there, including medicinal books. So for different areas of the United States and of different areas in the world, they have that. So you can get many different books. You can get them cheap at used bookstores. I find quite a few of them that I send out to friends. But Peterson's Field Guide is a really good book to pick up.
Yeah, and, you know, a Kindle edition is not a bad idea, or PDF edition, because if you have minimal solar, I have a little solar strip that'll recharge my Kindle without any problems. So, you know, look at that, too, the possibility. Now, if there's an EMP, well, then you may just lose everything, but it's another option. So, well, thank you, Rich. I appreciate the information. And you have a great evening.
You too. Thank you. You have a wonderful show.
Thank you. And I see that, Michigan Snow Pony's in here, and someone said Cat is incognito. Don't forget to check out the Homestead Honeys at 8 p.m. Central Time on Thursdays. Ladies, great shows coming up. All right, so let's kind of just go over, in the little bit of time we have left, since we have no one else in the queue, let's go over some kind of talking points, I guess you would say. So, you know, if you were a non-prepper and you didn't think about these things and we didn't talk about these things, well, let's see. You'd be without water because a prepper stores water, and you'd drink the dirty, nasty water, and so you'd probably get dehydration and infection, and it'd be really horrible suffering, and you'd be gone within 24 hours. So you're not a worry. You know, it's now dehydration will happen in 3 days, but if you drink bad water, it happens a whole lot quicker, and you go a little crazy. So you have to understand, too, that the economies of the world are interwoven. If one crashes, it brings the other ones down, and we are all in a very weakened state. And so as a non-prepper, if you're not prepared for that, and let me break in here because there was one point I wanted to bring up. Everybody should have a lump sum of money in their safe, $1,000, $500, whatever it is. When the bad situation happens, you can take that cash and have yourself a list, okay? If I've got $500 in my safe, I'm going to have a list, okay? If SHTF were to happen, what am I going to do with this $500 today? I'm not going to save it to barter with later. I'm going to use it today. I'm going to go out and get solar panels. I'm going to get chickens. I'm going to try to find a goat. I'm going to try to find feed for these animals. And while everybody else is out scouring the shelves, trying to find batteries and lights and candles and food and water, I'm going to be, $500 worth of chocolate, woohoo. I'm going to do a chocolate series in February on YouTube, how to make all kinds of chocolate. So that should be a good one. We won't need to buy that chocolate. But so while everyone else is out trying to pick up all these necessities, we need to be prepared to take that money that day and go pick up the things that we would have liked to have and that would make our lives a whole lot easier, and or that we were going to get someday, you know, when you're finally out at your retreat permanently. You know, just these are the things that you need to do. But you got to have a list, because otherwise you're going to go, oh, my goodness, oh, no, okay, I got $500. Let me go buy something. Not good. You're going to make some bad decisions. Anytime you're in the middle of a crisis, you're going to make bad decisions. You need to think of those decisions now. Who's giving out $500? Persimmon Rose? Not me, that's for sure. But, okay, so now back to what other little things are going to happen. Let's see. The non-prepper is going to go immediately into a panic. and they're going to start running out trying to find water and trying to find food. They're going to get dehydrated. They're going to wear themselves out. They're going to end up being stuck somewhere far away from home with no water and no food. And that's it. That's what's going to happen. You got to prep. How are they going to deal with the awful stench? You know, I'm prepared to head to the retreat, dig a hole if I have to. Hopefully, we're just going to put a toilet over the septic of the neighbors, and the other neighbors has a well, and the other neighbor has chickens, and we have goats, and we have pigs, so we plan on forming a community. And so there are certain things I don't have to get because the others have them, and they're still going to have them, and they're not going to have the amount of food they need. So, you know, it's a great system to work together with. But these are the things you need to think about. I'm going to buy baking powder with $500. Come on. All right. And then insect bites, that's another big deal. You know, we're all going to have our windows open. Has anyone even thought about how they're going to take care of their insect bites? You know, right now in Texas, we've got the West Nile, I think it's the West Nile virus, and they're spraying their nasty chemicals everywhere to combat the West Nile from the mosquitoes. So, okay, there's no electricity. Our windows are open. Well, we didn't take care of things, so we have little holes in our screen. We're outside a lot because it's just as hot or hotter in the house than it is outside, and we're going to get insect bites, and we're going to get sick, and we're going to get sores all over us and get infections. And so, you know, you need to think about that. How many of us actually have insect repellent or know how to make it? So those are things you can do now to think about these things. Plantain works great for insect bites. Awesome. I don't have plantain. I need plantain. Hint, hint. I'm just kidding, Pat. Mosquito nets, right. I mean, I have my tent. We have a tent to house the overflow, and it's one of those great big, huge mess halls. And it does have mosquito netting on it. We got that. We also got the interior liner to prevent the heat because they're not going to have a choice. It's probably going to be cooler in the tent than it will be in the house or anybody's house. And most of us won't have a home to go to. You know, we're going to be hoofing out to the retreat. I don't have a home built out there yet. Eventually I will. And then we probably won't be doing videos of the retreat as much. But you'll bring me plantain? Thank you. Wintergreen, I mean, these are all wonderful ideas, and that's what we need to do more of. We need to share these ideas. We need to be more in a helping frame of mind instead of, you know, I've got 100 comments on my video this month, and I'm not going to answer them. It's important. We've got a lot of new preppers out there. Every time you teach a prepper to prep, that's one less person you need to worry about. So let's focus on that. Let's see if through this month of September, which, of course, as I said before, is the, what is it called? It's called, yeah, I know what it is, National Preparedness Month. Let's see if during this month we can all try harder to share, try harder to help the new people and get their focus centered and take that extra moment with them to help them. Because like I said, I've gotten a whole lot of new preppers on my channel, and we've got a bunch of new preppers here tonight in the chat room, and I want to thank everybody for coming in tonight. You've made this an amazing evening with a lot of great information being passed. Unfortunately, remember, the chat room can't be saved, and it doesn't go with it. So it looks like we have maybe a couple minutes for one more caller if someone wants to call in. But otherwise, I'm just going to go over the groups real quick and just do a gentle reminder about those groups. One is physically disabled, brittle diabetes, nursing homes, those kind of people. Group 2 is the welfare recipient attitude and the aggressor looters. Group 3 are the yuppies and the neo-hippies. And then we've got our line of action, which is the initial loss because of SHTF, Then we're going to have the people who burned because there was no way to take care of fires. We're going to have contagious diseases because of no trash and water. And, it's just going to go on. And then, of course, it's going to be dehydration, malnutrition, and suicide, which I didn't really touch on. But you all know that there's a lot of people that get desperate when they lose their job. How are they going to feel when they lose everything? All right, so I would like to thank you all for coming to the show tonight, and don't forget to join us on the third Tuesday, and next week we're going to have Sissy Bob here. So let me close with a quatrain by Nostradamus. The horrible war which is being prepared in the West, the following year will come the pestilence. So very horrible that young, old, nor beast, blood, fire, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter in France. Century 9, Quatrain 55. I will see you in a week from this Tuesday, September 18th at 8 p.m. Central Time, when we will be talking about preparing to homestead. What should you be considering when you're preparing to homestead without going into debt? Come join Bear Prepper's journey and lessons learned preparing to homestead while living in the city. Share lessons you've learned on your path to self-sufficiency. You can find more from me on YouTube and on Facebook, also here on the first and third Tuesday of the month. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. Good night and blessings.
This broadcast also brought to you in part by Emergency Essentials. Power outage, hurricanes, flash floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, solar flares, job loss, zombies, Armageddon. It doesn't matter what you're preparing for, Emergency Essentials will help. From tips for preparedness to food and water storage to ready-to-go emergency kits. Visit their website at beprepared.com and let Emergency Essentials help you prepare for, well, anything. Tonight's broadcast also brought to you in part by Seed for Security. For carefully selected, open-pollinated, non-GMO grain and vegetable seeds, visit the Seed for Security website. There you will also find many homesteading articles and photographs taken at the Seed for Security farm. We welcome you at www.seedforsecurity.com. Once again, www.seedforsecurity.com.
Tonight's broadcast brought to you in part by Joe and Amy Alton, the authors of the #1 Amazon bestseller, The Doom and Bloom Survival Medicine Handbook. See their articles in Backwoods Home, Survivalist, Self-Reliance Illustrated, and Survival Quarterly magazines. Visit Joe and Amy's website at www.doomandbloom.net.
Today's broadcast has come to you through the courtesy of the Prepper Broadcasting Network. See our hosts, show schedules, archived programs, and more at prepperbroadcasting.com. Thanks for listening.